In 2018, the Trump campaign sued the former staffer for violating an NDA after she released a behind-the-scenes book about working for the former president.
An arbitrator ruled the NDA invalid under New York law.
A blonde mullet topped the head of this subject of Tiger King, a zookeeper and felon born Joseph Schreibvogel. Matea,
who is Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic's songs, like I Saw a Tiger, got a lot of attention when the hit Netflix show Tiger King came out in 2020.
This is my first album, I Saw Tiger. There's 28 songs and 16 music videos.
Now Joe's attorneys are suing over his music. They filed this 550-plus page federal lawsuit last month against BMG and Vince Johnson, as well as other defendants.
I have video of all of our interviews. But Alan Glover, admitting that he had a murder plot on Joe that was the exact same laying in wait to decapitate their victim that he testified to it at trial is super significant.
Joseph Maldonado, better known as Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, filing for a new trial.
I want to get to the motion for a new trial that was filed with its hundreds of exhibits, the affidavits discussing perjury, witness collusion, the fact that 2 of the tigers that Joe allegedly shot were alive after he was convicted. They were found in Tennessee. I want to get to all of that.
I'm holding my own. I'm a fighter. I want to be proved innocent. I want to go start a new life and move past this. I love each and every one of you.
Following up on the case involving a civil rights activist, Ben Frazier, who was arrested here in Jacksonville ahead of a news conference by Governor DeSantis earlier this month. The governor's staffers asked Frazier to leave, citing his lack of media credentials. He refused, citing his right to be in a public space. Eventually, you can see here, JSO arrested Frazier, and he got a citation for trespassing.
I am concerned about the welfare of all Floridians, regardless of the color of their skin.
As I got to understand what was going on, I realized that it was Steve-O and Chris Pontius, the Jackass guys. They took 2 jet skis and pulled themselves apart, and they had this bungee type thing in between them. The bungee that they were using broke. I ended up being seriously injured. I was 40 years old at the time. Somebody touched my brain. I had brain surgery. I'm an air traffic controller. My brain is like my job. Looking for justice, for an opportunity to just sit and tell my story in front of a jury.
An attorney and local activists, they are fighting for a hate crime charge after a woman was attacked by a man at an Arlington gas station.
Tears fall down 23-year-old Ramey McCoy's face, her mother by her side.
We would like to see justice in this case.
This needs to be investigated fully as a hate crime. That because of the significance of her injury, the battery charge needs to be aggravated battery.
I'm the naked cowboy and I love Daytona too.
The entertainer, whose real name is Robert Burke, filed a federal lawsuit claiming wrongful arrest. Named in the suit, the police chief, the 2 arresting officers, and the city.
I'm the naked cowboy, you gotta do what you gotta do.
What we gotta do is take care of some legal business, don't we, nigga?
Daytona Beach has agreed to settle a lawsuit filed by the so-called naked cowboy performer. City police arrested him during Bike Week of 2021, saying that he violated the city's panhandling ordinance. The performer argued that that ordinance is unconstitutional. The $900,000 settlement does not include repealing the ordinance or admitting any fault.
Over in Columbia County, a Lake City man was found not guilty of any crime related to a traffic stop where he was violently attacked by a police dog. These are new pictures of that man, Martinez Bowman, in court today, represented by high-profile attorney John Phillips. Bowman is now filing a lawsuit against the Columbia County Sheriff's Office for that attack that he says led to multiple surgeries.
Deputy dashcam video provided by Martinez Bowman's attorney shows deputies following him with his tail light out in October of 2020. Now he turns into the street and he says he was trying to stop in a well-lit, safe area. When he gets to his house, deputies immediately draw their guns. The police report says Bowman didn't comply with their commands. And Bowman, while he says he was scared for his life following recent police encounters with black males, deputies eventually released that K-9. Bowman showing us the scars on his legs. Both Bowman and his attorney say they hope this verdict and this case that it will show the country fleeing and eluding law needs to be clarified.
Mr. John handled me very well, and I'm just so happy right now. I got my freedom, and it just feels good, you know. From there, I'm just completely filled with joy, happiness, and it's still there. It's still there.
Prenups are they're a smart thing to do. They're not romantic, they're not sexy,
right?
But they're very smart. You know, we talked about the difficulties of going through a divorce, and when you enter a divorce, all bets are off. You're following whatever the law says and the case law says. At least with a prenuptial agreement, you can enter your own contract. If something is to happen, here's what we're going to do. This is going to remain mine. This is going to remain yours. And a lot of people think when they hear about prenups later on, maybe they got married young, and they say, well, I have no options now. But there's postnuptial agreements. And postnuptial agreements are just like prenups. It's just after the marriage date, and you're still entering a contract. And so that's becoming a lot more popular. I'm seeing a lot more calls where people say, we've got children a little older, maybe we don't want to go through a divorce now, but in the event that it occurs, we want to make sure things are clean and easy. And that is an option, and for some people, it's a very smart option.
And why are people not made aware of certain coverages that they really need by the companies that sell them?
I think it has a lot to do with online buying. I don't think people are doing the research they need to do. Most of the time they go in and look, and then also when they talk directly to people, they're told things like, here's what you need to be fully covered. And I never want to see that, because when I hear that, it usually means that they don't have the coverage they need.
Number one, contact an attorney. And just remember fours, 904-444-4444 will get you through to us. But I see a lot of times people will call us Monday after they've already been arrested for the DUI. And when you're arrested, you go before a judge the very next morning to determine if there's probable cause to hold you, and they set a bond. A lot of these guys will go before the judge and go ahead and plead guilty just to get it behind them. Well, at that point, you've waived any defenses you may have.
I see.
So when you call us Monday afterwards, it's hard to go back on that. You can't take that back to Walmart with a receipt. It's just, it's done.
7:35 this morning, the family of a Rains High School football star shot and killed shortly after he walked across the stage to graduate believes a recently announced reward is making an impact.
You can make an anonymous tip. If that tip leads to an arrest, you can claim $3,000. In addition, my firm is contributing $10,000 for any tips that lead to either a conviction or a plea bargain, to make sure that this killer stays behind bars. Community policing needs to start within the members of the community. Certainly, a sheriff can help implement what law enforcement can do, but community policing needs to start with people upholding not the law, but what's right.
It's hard when you have to go and look in a room and you don't see a body there. You don't see no child laying in the bed. I have sleepless days and sleepless nights.
Crime Stoppers has gotten reports, JSO's gotten reports, we've gotten reports. Justice is coming.
Ebony Washington was pulled over by a Bradford County Sheriff's Office deputy when he suspected her of speeding, right? So she drove to a nearby gas station, and once she parked, was handcuffed after the deputy pulled out his gun.
I'm pregnant, and I did not want them to feel uncomfortable.
Shut up!
Yes, sir.
About the why.
Yes, sir.
Don't care about the why.
I was nervous for myself and my children, and but the part where I felt really nervous about my unborn child was when he walked up to me with the gun, and when he put the handcuffs on me and jerked me around.
I thought they were going to take her to jail, so I started panicking and I started crying.
The deputy sheriff, Jason Deshu, has now resigned. His boss, Sheriff Gordon Smith, says his officer was clearly in the wrong.
This young lady did everything you would expect, everything that I would hope that my wife or my daughter or my neighbor would do.
Everybody, fully trained on this, including law enforcement officers, would say you can do something that's reasonably safe both for yourself and the officer. But yet we still had to try a case just yesterday where a young black man drove 1,000 feet at night to his own driveway and got charged with felony fleeing and eluding. This is a pariah when you have the mix of the African-American community and these paranoid, aggressive officers, and it's a toxic mix.
A deaf couple turned away when seeking a marriage license last year is now filing a lawsuit against Duval County Circuit Court and Clerk of Court Jody Phillips for discrimination. According to the court's website and attorney John Phillips, sign language interpreters are available at no cost to you.
Requests for sign language interpreters should be made at least 5 days prior to the scheduled event when possible. To request a sign language interpreter or ADA accommodation, call this number. Well, that's the number they called. So even if you say, okay, well, they went down there and they shouldn't have assumed the ADA would grant them an interpreter. The fact they called the number 8 times is now a triple whammy.
The court system wasn't prepared either via TDD or otherwise to provide an interpreter. It's been almost a year. They still await their marriage license.
Well, you remember the deaf couple from Jacksonville? They were having trouble getting their marriage license.
Well, we got some good news today. We have learned that they finally got it. Joe and Ucella's attorney shared this update on Facebook with the caption, "It's officially official. License issued. Thanks to the city of Jacksonville for working through this."
A civil suit has been brought against a rap artist recruited by Kanye West and others for the wrongful death of 2 of his crew members. YNW Melly, whose real name is Jamel Demons, also faces murder charges in a criminal court case over the killings of Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr.
The whole thing keeps me up at night. These were all really good friends that wound up killing other good friends and covering it up. And it's disturbing. We understand Melly has vibrant fans, but there's been death threats even of me. We urge peace and justice. Like, it's going to take some time to get the criminal trial and the civil trial over with, but it's just, we got to let justice take its course.
What's in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
The navigational aids. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually.
Her suspicion was that you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID. Well, now she has verified that I am not armed, okay? So there is no problem. You got your ID or not? I do have my ID, but you don't need it, okay? Okay?
All right, Mr. Hodges. Was that hard?
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge number. I'll put you in jail for resisting.
Okay.
I've heard countless stories about wrongdoing with the sheriff's office. I've seen it over and over again on camera. And we're going to be asking for the Department of Justice to come in and take a look at the wrongdoing and the lack of discipline at Columbia County Sheriff's Office. Police protect us, and we depend on police to do a hero's job. But when they're poorly trained, when they abuse their power, it is the biggest breach of trust that our society has. And it too often, affects the disenfranchised. The African American community, in this instance, the blind community. And look, this, show them, Jim. This is not a weapon. This is an aid to a man who's legally blind. And by him merely displaying it and showing, okay, you were wrong, Jamie Goad, you were wrong, this isn't a gun, that should have been the end of the encounter. But instead, what you see is the self-proclaimed tyrant, then throwing a man in jail over ego tripping and power abusing.